A recently released report reveals some pretty upsetting news about death rates across the United States. So according to the Commonwealth Fund's 2019 State Healthcare Scorecard, deaths from suicide, alcohol, and drugs have all reached an all-time high. The report examined data in all 50 states and in D.C. while analyzing all health outcomes such as insurance coverage, accessibility to a provider, smoking, and more. Findings from the Commonwealth Fund show that although the death rates are up nationally, some areas have been more impacted than others. Hawaii, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Washington, Connecticut, and Vermont all rank at the top for state health system performance. On the other hand, Arkansas, Nevada, Texas, Oklahoma, and Mississippi rank at the bottom in this report, and they have more overdoses and a lower population covered with insurance. States in the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast had the highest rate of overdoses in 2017. And, you know, Sagar, it's this crazy, disturbing, I think deeply important and significant trend where you have macroeconomic numbers are good, low unemployment, et cetera, and yet you have people literally killing themselves, whether it's through suicide, actual suicide, or drugs or alcohol. To me, this is one of the most significant symptoms of a deeper rot in this country that has to be addressed.
Well, that's what you always look at. People are always screaming about how the economy is great, and the economy, as it's structured, is doing fine, but the way it's structured might actually be the problem, because you have so many people who are committing suicide, who are overdosing on drugs. The suicide rate since 2008 has skyrocketed amongst people under 55. Some of the leading causes of death are self-inflicted, which is a real problem.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's this sense of hopelessness. And look, I mean, I'm the first one to hold Big Pharma accountable for they sold opioids into this country and knew exactly. Yeah. But drugs are always available. Yeah. And this is the worst addiction crisis we have had in our nation's history, and there's not nearly enough attention paid to it. There's another serious story that we're looking at this morning. What have you got? Earlier
this morning, a fire started as a result of an explosion on one of two oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. The exact cause of the detonation remains unclear. According to Iran's official news agency, IRNA, 44 crew members from the tankers were rescued by Iranian vessels, but it was later clarified that the ships nearby performed the rescue. The U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet is also in the area and released a statement that the U.S. Navy ships are in the area and are rendering assistance. Iran's foreign minister issued a statement about the fire on Twitter, saying in part, "Suspicious doesn't begin to describe what likely happened this morning or transpired this morning. Iran's proposed regional dialogue forum is imperative. While there has been a recent downslide in oil futures, the attack is going to have an impact on prices." CNN Business reports that U.S. crude oil futures have already surged up to 4%. It's little things like this which can spiral completely out of control. You have an attack on a Saudi tanker, an attack on an Iranian tanker. It can continue up and up, and then, things can go hot very quickly in this part of the world.
That's exactly right. I mean, this was very close to the Strait of Hormuz, which is critical in terms of oil
40%
transport.
of the world's oil suppliers.
Right. Yeah. So anytime anything happens in this part of the world, it is really important and nerve-wracking, and something to definitely keep an eye on as we figure out, because we don't know who was behind this, and that's one of the important things to ascertain in terms of what happens next.
There's a lot of little pieces together, and things could flare up, so we have to keep an eye on it, and we will. But House Democrats are also postponing a vote on a bill that would give lawmakers and congressional staff a raise. Under the legislation, members of Congress and their staff would receive a 2.6% increase starting in January of 2020. It would have been the first time lawmakers received a pay raise since 2009. The pay raise provoked bipartisan backlash, several proposals being offered by Republicans and Democrats to freeze the pay raise. Other lawmakers, including House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, said that the pay raise was necessary since staff members cannot exceed lawmakers. I've actually seen some interesting debates about this, Crystal. I think from AOC about how increasing pay raises actually would reduce corruption, because people will, splitting two incomes from on coast to coast, trying to pay two rents plus their college tuition, etc., can actually make it so that you're more susceptible to corruption and to going and eating on a lobbyist's dime than you would be otherwise.
Yeah, I hear that, but they make
it's not a sympathetic argument.
They make a pretty good amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if you really want to deal with corruption, you've got to take some more aggressive posture than just like, let's up the pay, congressional pay a couple of
of course.
I'm sympathetic to the argument, but, I don't think that's going to solve the problem.
Yeah, same. So.
Tomorrow on Rising, author and columnist Gordon Chang is going to give us insight into the unrest in Hong Kong as police and protesters clashed over a controversial extradition law. And the Young Turks have a pledge that is aimed at progressives. We're going to tell you about that.
And a nationwide survey defines economic priorities for African Americans in 2020. Jamal Simmons talks to the group's founder and executive director. Team Rising will be here.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.